Hey, hello, and welcome back to BU Inspirational Interviews. This is DJ Storm. I'm going to let him tell you guys about who he is and what he does. But I do want to preface it with I think I met you before I was in your studio when Jared brought me. So, our mutual friend is Jared. If you watch the episode with Jared when we do the Pink Moon ritual, he was actually there. And we did that interview at a part of his house. Am I okay to say that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. They'll see it.
Let me know. Okay. But before I say how inspired I am to be in your studio, like I just told you before the camera was on, I was like, I need to repeat this when the camera is on because we are in the beginning stages of BU. And being in your space, in your creative space, with all of the energy and all of the effort and everything that you've put into it, like just sitting in the chair, I had a surge of like I was like, oh my God. And I had to tell you that how inspirational interviews, here we are, how inspired I am to create my space for BU. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, so I want to give you your flowers now.
Thank you. Thank you. I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, it's so incredible and it's so cool. Like his whole house is cool, guys. Like you, oh my God. Like when you, I'm gonna let you talk about yourself because I could talk about you for like an hour,
No,
having just met
I'm
you.
curious because I live here, so I'm curious to see what other people think that don't.
It's
So
oh my God. So if you watch any Marvel movies, it's like you're walking into Tony Stark's house. Literally, I'm not kidding. Like right now, there's spinning plants that look like they're floating behind the cameras. Like it's like you look, every inch of his house has creativity in it, but it's also very much him. Like if
I
you
did not tell her to say that Tony Stark thing. That was an observation of her own.
yeah, so I remember we're in one of the many rooms that you have, and you're like, it's not like Hey Siri or Alexa. You made its own name. You have like
Yeah.
and Tony Stark has a, what is
Jarvis.
okay, yeah.
Oh,
So
and Tony Stark's one is Jarvis. Yeah.
yeah, so you have one, and you're like, hey Ziggy, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hey Ziggy, turn this door. I forgot what you said, but it went from like a glass door to like a whole other kind of door,
From
and I
opaque
was
to
like,
transparent. Yeah.
I was like, are we in the future? Is this 2035 or what? Like, I was like, wow. Um, so every time you see like something cool in a Marvel movie where they're like, he has like all of those things in here. It's so cool, but it's cooler because it's so particular to him. He's a DJ. He's a creative. He's an art, like he's very artistic. Like all of that is encapsulated in like all the little details of like your home, but it's so
There's a
cool.
lot of history to everything, and I'm extremely sentimental type of person. So I had an uncle that lived out here and decided he's retired, he's gonna move back to Guyana, so on, and I helped him move out of his place. And he had this record collection with him, and he was like, "I don't know what to do with these. You're a DJ, have the records." And when these are like records, like it's not like a thing of MP3s or hard drive of MP3s. He was like, "You can still use vinyl records." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but for what?" So I took them in the Whitney Houston records and the Stevie Wonder records and all this kind of stuff. I just took it and made like a mosaic in the place out of it, and just, finding interesting ideas for things that he was going to throw away. And now every time I walk down to the podcast studio, I'm like, oh yeah, Uncle Merwin. Like, I wonder how he's doing. And like, so things that people are like, oh, that's cool. It's like it does have a secondary or even sometimes a tertiary meaning or something, that means something to me. So it's been a lot of fun to kind of set up everything in the house. I had to take a year off of doing a lot of different things, like most things, the end of 2023 into the end of 2024. And people are like, if you're stuck in the house the whole time, what's that like? I'm like, y'all got through COVID, like, what you mean? But at the same time, it was different from that, where I could go out and go to a Home Depot or look for something, or look at these tutorials that people are doing things, or go to somebody's place like, oh, how'd you do that, or how'd you set that up, or how did you get this, and take those things and throw them into the stew and create like a lot of the space that is the house. So that also just goes to show it's kind of crazy what you can do in just a year if you set your mind to something. Not that if you can't do anything else, this is what you can do from home. But like if you set your mind to something, what you can get done when you focus a year of your time on it. So
Yeah. So I just remember, were you so a long time, I'm talking like years on years on years on years ago, there was a music video that Zyme was a part of, Stuck in My Ways, at a country club. Do you remember that?
no, don't.
Darn it, I thought you were there.
I may have been. The reason I had to take that year off is I have epilepsy, and I had 5 seizures in 13 hours, and that can really jostle a bunch of things around.
Oh my gosh.
The way that I equate it is to like if you have a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and some of the pieces are missing, and you're trying to put that together, but the final image is just television static. Like that's what that's like, trying to figure out what fits where, or it can be extremely difficult. And it's something that when I took that year to myself, being able to like find ways around short-term memory loss or things like that. A lot of people are like, oh, you seen the movie Memento? I'm like, yeah, I've seen the movie Memento, but I forgot what it's about. Tell me again. But that's not true. I do remember what Memento is about, but I'm not going to get myself tatted like that. But with a lack of short-term memory, there are certain things that you have to do, certain relationships and friendships that you have to find and repurpose. And we're talking about Jared/Zyme, and with him, I didn't have to do that because he was there before this incident happened, and then he was there right afterwards. So it was just like, yeah, you've just been here the whole time. Like everything's cool. So he's been here for a lot of the development and the painting of the walls and this going up and I'm gonna put this over here. And he was like, probably don't do that because gravity, and like will help me. Has helped me along with I have a couple other friends that were here through that kind of reconstruction of not just my home but my brain through all that. I have a cousin that stayed with me for a little bit and all those kind of things, and I've been fortunate enough to have those people around me and just to remain imaginative enough to do some of the things that I can do and be blessed enough to forget the reasons why I shouldn't try them and just do them anyway. So.
Ooh, that was very nicely put.
Thank you.
Do you think that had that hadn't happened to you, would you be this creative? Do you think it shifted something in you where you're like, this is a whole new...
The major thing that shifted was the sobriety. So that has been, instead of my motivation being, I'll do this job and I can get this many drinks afterwards. Like, let me do this job and market and network with these people afterwards instead of just
your
getting
whole mindset
free drinks. Yeah.
Change. So, okay, well, let's back up. So take us through, well, first of all, let's talk about your accomplishments, and then we'll bring it back to how you got there. So from the outside looking in, you're like incredible in so many different ways. Like your creativity level is like just in different avenues though, right? Like you do music, but also look at all this like video production. You have a whole podcast studio. That's amazing. Like everywhere I look, I'm like, wow. Like, so what else, like, what are you most proud of?
I think that the thing that I'm the most proud of is being able to, when it comes to DJing, people are like, oh, you pick the music. And it's like, no, that's not really it. You can control the vibe and the atmosphere of the party. I have a good friend of mine named DJ Big Cali who, like, weddings are his primary thing. And people can sometimes, just in general, not at him, but people can be like, oh, you're a wedding DJ. And it's like, you realize that that's the most important day of somebody's life. And he is a major part of that. There can be events at parties and nightclubs that I go to where something can happen to somebody. Oh my gosh, where's my girlfriend late? Because I just found out I'm pregnant. what? And like that moment was like at this thing, and this celebration now becomes, oh my God, I got to celebrate with my girlfriend because I found out that we're gonna be a family together. Da da da. DJ Storm, can you play At Last from Etta James?
Ah.
No, that's way too slow for the club. But I can play something through that it's equivalent, or I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to lose my job because y'all had a nice moment, but I mean, it's things like that people don't realize that the soundtrack to your life is when it's depicted by other people. Like those people have a hand in what you feel at that moment in
Yeah,
time, things like that. So
100%. Wow. That's awesome. It's good that you're proud of that too, and you can recognize that importance. Um, but I mean, you're pretty like up there, right? You're doing some pretty major stuff. So how did you get there?
there are actually people who have like they like somebody can plant a small seed inside you that kind of blooms into something that you didn't know that it was going to. I love to travel. I've always loved to travel, and I began to take that and put that into my work. So traveling maybe down to LA to do a gig, like from San Francisco in the Bay Area, that's not really that far of a stretch. Vegas is a bit more difficult to get into because they're like the A game when it comes to entertainment. But maybe someplace like Minnesota. People are like, why would you go to Minnesota for that? Like, dude, you are the hottest thing walking on the street in Minnesota. If you come from a city, no diss to Minnesota, but that's just kind of how it is. And then maybe go to someplace like Texas. Like I have family in Texas, so all right, I'll go down there and stay with them. So now a promoter doesn't have to pay for my hotel. I have my own accommodations.
Oh.
So either I get paid more, or they're more likely to book you for the same price that they would book somebody else because I'm like I don't come with the additional fee. Besides airfare, like, I don't come with all that stuff. So you get to travel to different places around the U.S., which then leads you to meet people who are in different places around the world. I just got back from Dubai recently, which was an amazing time, and I kind of brushed that off, like the experiences that I had there, because the next thing I'm gonna do is the Icon of the Seas, which is the largest cruise ship ever constructed. So when people are like, "Oh yeah, the Titanic," and it's a joke that I hate that the Royal Caribbean staff do. They're like, "This boat makes the Titanic look like the Tiny Tanic." I'm like,
Oh my God.
the first 14 times I heard that joke, that was moderately funny, but now it's like too much. That and the other one that they do is like, "Oh, when the boat rocks back and forth, that's the only time when you see the sober people like get wavy and the drunk people can walk in a straight line." I'm like, yeah, that was only fun like the first 3 times that I heard that, but. The Royal Caribbean has always been an amazing cruise line to be on and to work on and all sorts of stuff. So it's the third time that I would have been DJing on any of their boats. But I had the Allure. I was on the Allure of the Seas when it was the largest. Then went to the Oasis when it was like second place. So I'm like, I got gold medal first and then silver medal. Like I want to do the gold medal one more time. So that like looking forward to things, I guess, is one of the benefits of the job. And it's like, what can I do next? Like, where can I go next? I met somebody recently who lives in Bristol, but they're like 90 minutes away from London. And I'm like, dude, I'll be in London, yo. You can come see. And like, they're like, well, it's not that close. I'm like, but I'm coming from California all the way to London, so you
Yeah.
can go from Bristol to London. We can hang out. Got
Yeah.
family in London, so I mean, it's being able to be all over the place. Being able to be a big fish in a small pond is what a lot of people like kind of strive for. But being a small fish in a big pond is like that's what I like the most. I don't have to
Yeah.
be the biggest at whatever. I just want to be all over the place, all over everywhere.
Yeah.
So getting paid to go to places like London or go to Miami or wherever else, like that has been a tremendous amount of fun. So
Yeah. It sounds like a tremendous amount of fun. Huh. Another idea went bing.
you can travel for this. I
Yeah,
recommend you look
yeah,
into it.
absolutely,
Hit somebody up
100%.
online and be like, hey, if you come out, I'll do this and that interview. You've seen what my product is already. And, I mean, I don't want to stray too much off of your topic, but I'm fascinated by the work that you do and
thank
the
you.
topics that you have discussed with people as well are tremendous. I'm like, wow, that was episode 4. Like, that's crazy.
I know. Even episode 1 was like kind of like, whoa,
Yeah.
you know? But all right, so I mean, you're living your best life, I would say. Like you're just living a life that so many would love to live, right? You're doing what you love. You have all these experiences. You have a whole bunch of people around you that like support you and just all the things, right? So take us back to what you said before you hit this moment. What changed in you and how that changed? I mean, I know we kind of briefly went over it, but just like take us through that part of it.
Back when I was drinking, there was, and I can't name the company, but I had a collaborative deal with that company where I would go into different venues. And the aim of the game is to present them with, hey, would you like to try out, or would you like to make the blah, blah, blah special and put that on your menu? All right, yeah, I guess we have all the ingredients. Well, I can give you extra bottles of this liquor so that you guys can try it. Run the special for the night. See how many people buy it. Get your P's and Q's together and see if this is something that you guys would want to do. Collaborate with the company. It's a pretty big company. Collaborate with them and then start buying bottles directly from them. And like, all right, cool. So that was my job. So when I do something like that, like go purchase maybe 4 or 5 bottles of whatever that liquor is, bring it to that venue, I give that company the receipt and they reimburse me for those bottles. When the aim of the game is to like give this to a distributing bar or nightclub or what have you. But in my alcoholism, I was able to take that and manipulate it so I can just go to the store and buy a bunch of bottles of this stuff and then give them the receipt and then pay me back for it. Immediately that becomes unlimited free alcohol, which is not the space somebody should be in. When it's just like raining from the sky, you can go to the store and just get however much more of it with no financial repercussions, then it becomes a lot. And I've done things, people are like, oh, you shouldn't think of when you used to drink as the glory days. And I'm like, dude, I killed a handle of alcohol in a day. I'm like, that's impressive. Like, and at that time, I was like 140 pounds and 5'9". Like, to kill that, like, yo, that would destroy a regular grown man. I'm so proud that I did that. I don't want to do it again, and I don't recommend that at home, children, not at all. But it was just like, I had my good days, and then things changed, and I'm looking forward to having more good days. There was a night where I was supposed to go to a comedy club, and I remember looking for my shoes, and my shoes were just at the top of the steps. And from what I remember like going to reach for them, and then all of a sudden I was just in a hospital bed, and it was like bright, and sunlight was coming through the window. When you have a seizure, for the people that are around you, you're shaking and your eyes might be rolling up in your head, and you can hit something. And I actually have a scar on my face from hitting my nose on something like on the way down when I was falling. But for the person having the seizure, it's just like you blink and then you're somewhere else, which can become very scary if you're in that state, because you can just be walking down the street and blink and then you're somewhere else or on the ground or bleeding or what have you. And I remember going to put my shoes on, and then I was just in this white room, and I had a massive, massive headache, and I felt that it was a bed. It was a hospital bed, and I saw there were these 2 rectangular windows and 2 people sitting down in front of the windows. And because the sunlight was coming from behind them, I couldn't see who they were. And they both stood up and started walking towards me, and it was my parents. And I was like, shit, I died and went to purgatory. Or hell, depending on who starts talking first. But I was like, what has occurred? And they were like, you've been out for like 4 or 5 days. Like, it's been a while. My parents don't live in the state. So for them to get the news that this had happened, fly across the country, and then be there with me, and not like in a panic state or like run. You know how people, when you first get into a hospital room, people are very panicky about whoever it is. Like, even if the situation is benign, it's like, oh my God, are you okay? It's like, they've gone past all that. So they've been here for a while. If they're just sitting down, chilling, like blinking at me, waiting for me to wake up.
Was this the first time you had a seizure?
No, I've been having them for quite some time. But this, I was to learn later, the first time that I had 5 in the span of 13 hours.
Yeah.
So and I mean, not to get into the specific metrics of it, but there's a lot of damage that happens after like 2 to 3 consecutive seizures. Then to have a 4th, the probability that you're going to be brain dead is pretty high. Then to have a 5th is like, it can be viewed as a miracle that you're walking around to begin with. Then to have that 5th and still have the cognitive function that I do have, people are like, yo, you need to use what you have left to be able to do as much as you can. And it's like, viewed through that lens, if I get somebody's name at a party or an event and I immediately turn around and like forget that person's name, it's like at least I'm here to get their name in the first place. I have systems set up with my friends like Zyme where I'll be, oh hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm like, I'll do something like that, and then he'll be like he'll be all right, cool. Talk to that person for a second and come back and be like, her name's Serena. I'm like, okay, cool. And try to like find a way to remember that or things like that. And I don't tell a lot of people that because it can seem as though I find you as unimportant or insignificant if I can't even take the second to remember your name. But it's like, it's the opposite of that. I've set up a whole system with other people that you don't know or aware of what I'm going through in order to remember your name. So I may be a bit rusty at it at first, but like I'm doing my best. I'm doing the best I can with what I got in order to just have the simplest, most rudimentary form of a conversation with somebody. So there's a lot of that. I love to be able to think about what I'm gonna say before I say it. And people are like, oh, you're not paying attention to me. It's not that I'm not paying attention to you. I'm just properly formulating the answers to a question that you may have, or a response, or sometimes a retort, or whatever, to what it is that you're saying. So I don't have to just sit there and be like, well, like I'm not trying to Forrest Gump a whole conversation. So it's easier for me like that to, like, you have to be taught things as well. When you look at somebody, look at the opposite eye. Like, so the way that we're facing right now, look at the eye that's farthest away from me. And that gives you the impression, I mean, not that I'm not paying attention to you, but it gives you the impression that I'm like super focused on you.
Oh.
But that's the same thing as me going like this, like, all right, well, she said that, so what, that. And then like thinking about it. But that's what I'm doing as I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
That's something I had to learn how to do. So there's a lot of things like I do envy people like college kids. When college kids are like, oh my God, man, last night was crazy. You know what we did? I'm like, even to be that messed up or coming out of being that messed up and remembering what you did last night, like, that's pretty crazy. Like I kind of envy that thing that people have. When old people are like, oh my gosh, I got up today. Like people in their 30s and 40s like, oh my God, I gotta get up today. People in their 70s like, I got up today, I did it. I'm like, that's how I feel. So there's a bit of like an unexpected optimism that comes with the things that I've been through in that incident. So
That's interesting that you brought that up because I was listening, again, I probably say this in every episode, but I listen to podcasts literally every day. And it's always something informative. And one of them was on like gratitude. I forget her name, I shouldn't, but she's like a super famous, she used to be part of like the Secret Service. She was like one of the only females in the Secret Service. And she was talking about gratitude, where she's like, we take little things for granted. Like we live in a world of that's like so like, maybe it wasn't her. Actually, I listened to 3. One, I don't know.
As
She
one
was
does.
talking. Yeah, it might be information from like her, the man that they were all new people, not the Secret Service. I've listened to her a couple times, but there was like 2 new people, and I took all of their information, and I like formulated into ideas that will work for me. Like, ooh, I learned this from this person, this from this person, this from this person, and basically taking all of their information, I gathered that they were kind of all saying the same thing in different ways, where we take for granted the tiniest little things. Like even the sun, like just closing your eyes and like feeling the sun on your face. Nobody does that. Nobody takes the time to give thanks to like, I can experience this. And not just comparing yourself to someone who has more or has less. It's just like, take away that noise and then be in the moment with yourself. Like there was a time where we didn't have TV, we didn't have internet, we didn't know what the Joneses were doing. Like we didn't ever want to like keep up with anybody else. We were just like living day to day. And she and whoever else was talking about like the theme was like gratitude and how it's so powerful. So taking that perspective of like, well, you get to do this and you get to do that, but there are things that now you get to be grateful for that they're not grateful for. And it's like you get to be here in this moment and like experience it, and that is like a whole nother level of like living, which is like incredible, because there are people who take for granted the ability to drive, or the fact that we have cars and get from point A to point B, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there are little things that people are just like, oh, that's everyday life, big deal. Like how shallow and unfulfilling is it to think that way of like, big deal, I have this and that, blah, blah, blah. You know, like it's
Yeah.
just like, I feel like you might even be living a more rich life because you can, well, aside from your crazy house and all of your things, but like just even the awareness that you have now, which is like a gift even, you know?
I see that and I appreciate that, and it's just a common thing of like the grass is always greener on the other side, and it's like, oh man, I wish that I could, like just have thing or remember this conversation, remember this or do that. There are times where I guess it varies from person to person and on your age range, but when you wake up, you'll see a computer, like any computer, like that has like its boot up system. For a person, you get up and you go, oh, I'm still a little tired, I just that. At least you know where you are. At least you know what's going on around you. At least you know, like, there are times I've woken up in hotel rooms and for like 4 seconds, it's like the hangover where it's like, oh my God, oh yeah, no, I'm in this place. All right, no, I'm cool, so on and so forth. And then like things start to come back to you, especially when I travel. I have to like remember, it always tends to happen like the first or second night where I'll wake up and just be like, what's going on here? Even at friends' houses, I've woken up, like someone very close to me has 2 cats and I'm allergic to cats.
Oh.
But I'm like, I'll take medication when I go over there, whatever, like antihistamines or what have you. But like, I'll wake up sometimes and there'll just be a cat just posted up next to me. I'm like, somebody here is either very irresponsible or I'm in a place where this person doesn't know me. It's, oh wait, no, that's the cat. No, cool, I got it. I'm in Florida. Like I know like where I'm at or gather those things. So that's a process that I have to go through every time I wake up from a nap or whatever, that like I
Every
envy the
single
people
time?
who, the longer I sleep, the longer it takes. I'll say it like that. So like if I fall asleep in the car for 5 minutes, I don't have to do that like
But
every
like
time.
every morning.
Yeah, every morning.
Wow.
So like I'm very envious of the people who don't have to do that. Well, it's only like half a minute. I'm like, that's a very
Yeah.
confusing half a minute when you just gotta be like, all right, both my parents are alive, like my goldfish is fed, like, you know what I mean? Like you just have to come back to all these
Dang,
things. And then
yeah.
if something is wrong, it's like, wait a minute, now let me go double check that. I have friends who will stay over at my place from time to time, Zyme, and there are times where I don't get up until after he does. So I'll wake up and be like, all right, so Zyme's chilling out over here. And then I'll go and then I'm in the house by myself and I'm like, wait a minute.
Where did he go?
What? And he was like, yeah, dude, I left like 45 minutes ago. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, because you slept over, all right, never mind, cool. All right, so I don't know, there's very interesting things. Those are the kind of things that I do keep to myself. And so a lot of people may not realize that. It's not just me, like people who have epilepsy or people who have dementia or a myriad of other different mental setbacks. I try not to call them handicapped because there are people who are far worse than I am. Like people have seizures like 5-6 times a day. I had 5 of them in 13 hours. People go through that on a daily basis. They have to be monitored. They can't drive at all. Like there's a whole bunch of different things that are set onto people with epilepsy. So like that, I try not to get political. When Donald Trump said something about how people with epilepsy shouldn't have jobs or something to that effect, I'm very much paraphrasing with that. But when he said that, I'm like, you know how hard it is for us to get a job anyway? Much less like, you know what I mean? Like there are varying degrees of it, but to be able to function in normal society and things like that, they have now, because of medications and things, become a lot easier for people. But it's still kind of hard. If you lose your medication or don't take something for a day, you have to worry about, should I be driving? Should I be in a public place? Should I be on the subway? Like, because something could happen. And on a New York subway, at least, you're probably gonna get robbed before anybody calls for help. So they'll go through your purse if you're on the ground. You know, you've seen New York.
Yeah.
So it can be a very dangerous situation just trying to exist and trying to live.
So do you take, is this appropriate to ask, do you take medication
Yep.
every day?
Yep.
And then you know that you're not going to have a seizure.
Yeah, there are, I guess, precursors to it in terms of like, I know if I'm being irresponsible or drinking or in the nightclub. It's in my rider too that you can't have strobe lights when I'm performing at a venue. And I thought that was going to be a very difficult hurdle to jump. But most people are like, yeah, only like half the people like strobe lights. I'm like, then why do you do it? Yeah, the other half like it. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, so if you don't want it, then it's no skin off our back. And I'm like, all right, well, that's good to know that people can be inadvertently helpful in that kind of way. But I've been actually, Zyme and I go to Vegas a lot, and there was a night where it was the end of whatever it was that we had to do over there. The last night, we went into this little bar. I forget what casino we were in, but I remember that there were these orbs on the ceiling, and the whole ceiling was like that. And it was just like, they light up or whatever. And it was cool. It wasn't really a big thing, but me and him were just hanging out. He got a drink at the bar, what have you, and all of a sudden, all the orbs turned blue, and there were some of them that were white. So it looked like clouds in a bright daytime sky. And everybody just looked up at the ceiling and were like, "Oh wow, that's amazing!" And it immediately just turned into strobe lights. So not only has that, like, nobody expected it, everyone's attention is now on the ceilings, and then it's turned into these bright lights. And I just had to duck my head down and grab the back of his hoodie, and he like led me out of the venue. And it wasn't just me. There were like 5 other people that had to be taken out of there too. Somebody was throwing up outside, and it was like,
Oh my God.
it was very like, somebody should have warned us. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was a DJ transition or whatever that was, but every single person in that venue was caught off guard by that. And like I said, it didn't bring me solace, but it reassured me to know that this is their fault, and this is not something that I came into unknowingly. Nobody knew that was going to go down like that. So now it's even, if I'm in places that I've never been to before, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, you got to be cautious of those type of things. And when people see me like looking at the light fixtures, it's like, no, I'm not trying to go to Home Depot and emulate that. Like, I'm just making sure nothing's going to turn on and like bug me out or something. So.
Yeah. Wow. So so you mentioned before that when you quit drinking, and it was specifically for this reason?
Yeah. When I was in the hospital with that, they were like, drinking doesn't necessarily lead to epilepsy in that way, but it definitely doesn't make it better. It'll for sure exacerbate that to its worst. And I'm like, all right, I mean, I had my fun while I had it, so I don't need to continue the rest of my life drinking. And I feel as though that was a major shift in me, because it's that thing of like, the bill comes due always with stuff. I had way more fun than is responsible or that any regular person should have when I was drinking. Somebody asked me, they were like, oh, so, like, did you just drink a little and decide you didn't like it? And I was like, I've consumed enough alcohol that would like drown a small horse in a swimming pool. Like, I've drank a lot. And it was so much fun, but now I don't get to remember all of those things.
Oh.
And now I have this thing about not being able to remember commonplace everyday things.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I had my fun. I went to all these places. I got to travel for work. I got to do all these things, but I don't get to remember half of it. So what's the point? So now for the second half of this, let me do something that I can remember, make memories that'll stick with me, do something that does have a point. And I now know that I can do all that without having to be drinking while I'm doing it. So
How did you know it was fun if you don't remember it?
they're souvenirs. And when I say that, I don't mean to be gross. Like, you saw my office with the wall of different little like wristbands and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It's a whole wall of those kind of those things. There's the Burger King crown. I was hanging out with somebody late one night, and they decided that they wanted Burger King, and there was a playground next to the Burger King. It was 4 o'clock in the morning about that, and both of us had been drinking, so we didn't think to check the time, but we walked down the street to the Burger King, and it was closed. So we just broke into the Burger King and was playing on the playground. And on the way out, we both took one of those Burger King crowns, and that was that crown. Like, that was something from that night. It's like, who breaks into a Burger King and just starts playing on the play? And like, we're grown. I was probably like 27, 28 around there when that happened. So it's like, it was a lot more fun than it needed to be. But I'm glad that that's one of the memories that I was able to hold on to. So.
Okay, that's valid. So can you compare? I know your memory is. Do you have like little bits and pieces of the? Okay. Do you have enough to compare your creativity levels of like before? I mean, before and after.
I think that there's a distraction factor to that. The less distracted I am, the more productive I become. So there have been times where there's been nothing to distract me from what it is that I'm trying to do. And that may seem like, oh, you want to have tunnel vision and cut out your distractions. Talking about things like school, like I would like not go to class because I'd be working on this thing or that thing. Like, that's not what I started going to art school. And fortunately enough for me, my parents were like, if you're cutting out class and not doing this and not doing that because you're focused on music, why don't you just go to school for music? And I was like, oh, I never thought about that. So then I went to music school, got accredited as a studio engineer, and did those kind of things. And it turned a fault into a way to function. So I was fortunate enough to have supportive parents. I'd be like, yo, if you're doing this instead of your schoolwork, why don't you do this as schoolwork? And I was like, yeah. And that's how, I kind of wound up in a better position than I would have been failing out of art school and having nothing to show for it. So
True. So I mentioned before I watch a lot of podcasts. Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's all kinds of like hero's journey stories, right? This happened to me and I became this. Like this happened to me and now I'm this, right? I feel like it can go one way or another, right? And you're obviously the one that went one way. So do you think that it takes a certain type of person or a certain type of mindset to make it out of that positive and create something great and become something great and just keep going and getting better and better? Because the other way that I'm talking about is something happens to you and you just spiral down and you just give up and you're like, this happened to me. I guess the victim mentality, right? There's the hero and then there's the victim. And a lot of people fall into that victim. I don't know the percentage, I could probably look it up, but obviously there's a distinct, like, very few make it to the hero and the masses fall into the victim. What does it take to be a hero versus a victim?
The answer to that, I feel, is very, it's this, but it's that. However, it's simple, but it's complex. The simple answer is having something to do. And when I mean that, like a goal or a purpose or something to strive for, there are people, actually somebody who's very close to me, and this is probably gonna twig it for some of my friends that know who I'm talking about. That person that her and I broke into the Burger King or doing whatever, she had a situation and she chose the other route. And about the end of 2023, it was roughly around the same time I was in the hospital, she committed suicide. And she took the other path our situations were not the same, but she did what she did. And it was just like, if she would have had something to, I need to do this before I can go, or things are different now, but I have to get this, I have to do this thing. Like, I know people with epilepsy who, if they have a seizure, like, they'll just shrug that off because they have a child to raise. I can't give up. I don't have time to sit here and feel sorry for myself. I have a daughter to take care of. Like, that's their mentality. Like, I feel like what this person lacked, and because I was so close to her, it was just like, I'm pretty sure it was just a lack of purpose or something to do, something to strive for, a goal to reach. So that, I feel like, can be a very determinative factor in how people choose to deal with the situation. You see it all the time in people who are paraplegic, who, you might be in Oakland in the wrong place at the wrong time and get shot, bullet hits your spine, and now you're in a wheelchair. You can just be angry and upset or be in that wheelchair, or you can go start a foundation to help underage youth get into certain programs, or they'll keep them off I am talking about one person again in particular, and he knows who he is. I don't have that many friends in wheelchairs, so you know what I'm talking about. Is it what?
Art?
Arthur? I'm not going to say yes or no.
Oh, he was on the show.
Was he? I'll show you some pictures of me.
Okay.
Well, that secret's out, but yeah. So it is things like that, because I was at one of those events and was just like, yo, it's really crazy. First of all, his suit was way flyer than mine. I was like,
I'm pretty sure it's the same person we're talking about.
I was like, yo, how you only got it? Never mind. But he took his experience and made such a positive thing out of it. And it's like, I'm not unique in my situation where something will happen that will change you, and then to turn that situation into a positive. So it's not like I'm special with that. And not to say that Art and I aren't special people in that way, but it's like, I don't know what it is that makes us in that way, or any of the millions of other people who start organizations or foundations or funds or charities, what have you. but it can be done. And I guess I hope that that's a point of solace or support to somebody who might be suffering through something. Like, you don't have to be the victim in your story. Like,
Yeah.
you can be the hero. It just, every villain is the hero of their own story. I mean, if you look at Black Panther, like, there's a lot of people who came out that movie that were like, yo, Killmonger was right though, like, and like, you know,
Oh, Killmonger.
it's how you phrase it. Now that I think about it, I think it was like late last night, and somebody was like, why you got the Killmonger haircut? And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like,
Oh, you do.
I didn't think about
Yes.
that. So
Yeah, right.
that's
You
probably
had it.
that's probably why that name came to my mind, because I heard it at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh yeah, I did do that, didn't I? But no, people can choose to take things, and I don't know what it is that would lead a person to do some of the things like Art did, or I mean, like, I teach, but that is primarily for making money. I teach through Apple and teach DJing programs through Apple, and it's been very fulfilling for me, and I want to keep doing things like that. I don't know if a lot of people know this about their grandparents, but there's a lot of things that they don't do because you and your parents are around. There's so many, like 60 to 65. I think the oldest student I've ever had is like 67. And it's because, you know, you gotta get a job, you gotta go into the workforce, you gotta get married and raise a family, all the things that you gotta do. He went and did that. And now that he's older, he's like, I don't have to do any of those things anymore. My kids are self-sufficient, my grandkids are going off to college. I have my 401k or my Roth IRA or whatever it is to support myself. So I want to look back into my hobbies. I'm not gonna go plant a vineyard because I don't have the physical wherewithal to do that. So I want to learn how to DJ. And that doesn't take a whole lot. And I'm like, all right, I see you on that. So what do you want to learn? Like, Whitney Houston. All right, fine. So then I got to dig back into my crates for some Whitney Houston, and then, you know, I have to learn things that my students want to learn before I can teach it to them. So that has also broadened my mind to a lot of different styles of music, like French rap, like all sorts of things that in the Bay Area, people aren't going around like, yo, have you heard the new blah, blah, blah? And it's like, yeah. No, you don't. Like, it's weird the bubble that a lot of people will put themselves into. And you mentioned the traveling around the world for doing different events. There are people who, and I live here, I'm not shitting on the Bay, but people are like, you know, I'm gonna be the next Rick Lee, I wanna be the next DJ Shellheart, or be the next DJ Big Cali, or whatever. And like, that is amazing. Those people have taken over their realms. However, it's like, why don't the people who can't be them try to go elsewhere or do something different? I was in Fresno for something, and I got into an Uber, and the Fresno driver, I don't know if he was having a bad day or what, but he was just like, man, I'm sick of this town, and everybody in Fresno, like, people meet somebody in Fresno, and then they have kids in Fresno, and they raise those kids in Fresno, then their kids have kids in Fresno, and those kids stay in Fresno, but I'm gonna do something bigger with myself, I'm gonna do something better, I'm gonna get out of here. And I was like, word? Like, what are your plans? He was like, I'm gonna go to, and the place he named, which I don't remember, it was like 2 counties over. I was like, word? Like, those are your big dreams, is down the street?
Yeah.
Like, that's your big thing. Like, that's where you want
Yeah.
to go? It's like, all right. Like, your view of things is very limited. Like, I met somebody in Florida who, I think she said she'd never left the county before. And there are 2 things I got to say before coming to the age of this person. One, Florida gets a lot of sunlight. There's a lot of beach. We were in Tampa, and this woman definitely was around the beach all the time. I believe she said she was 46. Those numbers should have been reversed. Like,
Yeah.
she was tanned.
Wow.
Real bad. But she was like, you know, I don't think I've ever left this county. I have everything I need here. And it's like, yeah, but there's more out here, like sunscreen. You should definitely look into that a lot. But like, it boggled my mind a bit that like, wow, like, you really don't have, like, I mean, people being content with something isn't necessarily being complacent. If you have everything that you need, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't always have to have the bigger this or the bigger that, or like, you know, Jeff Bezos can go everywhere in the world that he wants to. That's why this person is going to space. I almost cursed real bad. That's why he chooses to do things like go to space.
Yeah.
Like, he has everything in the world that he wants, so he's literally going past that. So yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm never gonna go to space, but I'm quite all right with that.
Yeah,
That
I
doesn't
don't
mean
wanna
I'm
go to
being
space.
complacent or settling for less or what have you. It's just,
Right.
space isn't on my docket.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna DJ in space. So
Well, you never know. But
I have been to Antarctica though. That's a true story.
oh, how fun!
One of my friends is a science researcher, and you can only go to Antarctica like roughly like 3 months out of the year, where there's less ice. And I didn't know this, that there are churches. There are more churches than there are bars in Antarctica. And I'm like,
a fun
word,
fact.
like what? Okay, so you got bars down there? I kid you not. I think it was like Stolies or something. That it was like a very common like well drink, and they had put a whole bunch of it on this pallet, and I just came out like riding on top of the pallet on the forklift, and my friend Debbie was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I bring refreshments, bitch." Like I was all about it. When I say I DJ'd there, I had a computer and 2 computer speakers and was just picking songs back and forth. And then I got there that afternoon. We left the next morning on the same boat, and the boat left. But I have technically DJ'd an event. I had 6 people, and we were in their unit
Antarctica, that's
and got to DJ in
crazy.
Antarctica. So
That's
I've hit
so
all
cool.
7 continents.
Wow, that's something not a lot of people can say.
I don't know. There are cruises now that go to Antarctica. I don't know where they stop off
yeah.
at, but yeah, I mean, it's gonna be more and more people the more time goes on. Also, on the way to Dubai, we flew up from the bay over the North Pole, and so on the little map that shows you where you are, how much time is left on your 15-hour flight.
Oh, yeah.
I know, right? It was the North Pole. And I took a bunch of pictures on my phone of the map. So my niece Maya, when Christmas comes out, and be like, "Yo, I talked to Santa. You better get your act together, homie." Like,
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
But yeah, I got to fly over. There's nothing there. The North Pole is just water. But the actual North Pole is just water. But been to both poles. Like that's a kind of weird
Wow.
thing. Like just, I really feel like travel is the antidote to ignorance. You can't have been to different places and still keep the same mentality that you have. Like, it's very interesting to see people open up and, oh wow, this is like this or that's different. And like, I don't speak as a person who knows everything or has been everywhere. When I was in Dubai, I found out that in Abu Dhabi, they're building a giant church that before he passed was ordained by the Pope, that is next to a synagogue, which is next to a mosque. And in the back, they all share a common area where after prayer and after service, people can come out and eat, and they can talk and communicate with
That's
each other.
beautiful.
And the guy I was talking to was like, who was telling me about all this, he was like, that's a very American thing to think that because I'm not like you, I have to dislike you. Like,
Yeah.
just because we're different doesn't mean that we can't sit down and share, like, have a meal together. And I was like, but what if, certain people don't eat pork? Like, how do you deal with that? If, Christians love to at least black people love to barbecue after church. So, like, how do you deal with that? And this is where I felt myself get dumber. He was like, different plates. I don't know. And I was like, oh yeah, huh? You don't just like scoop it into a trough. Like, yeah, people can pick what they want to eat. If you
Right.
don't eat something that doesn't align with your religious beliefs, then just don't eat that thing.
Right.
You can still hang out with somebody who is afterwards. And he was like, it's a very Americanized thing to think that I have to dislike you because I'm not like you. And I'm like, that's a very powerful thing to bring back with me. And that was last month I found that out. So it's like, I'm not done learning. I'm not done, you know what I mean? Like, it's not
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's just a thing that will never stop, to have different experiences and new experiences and things like that. I frequent London any chance that I get, but I want to go to Bristol, which is, from what I hear, 90 minutes outside of London. It's like that's still a different part of England. Now, I haven't been to all of England. Like, just because I go to the most recognizable place very often doesn't mean that I've been to all of it. When it comes to Florida, I got cousins and family that live in Orlando. I got a bunch of friends that live in Miami. But I go to Tampa all the time now. Like Tampa, besides the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I'm a massive fan of, only because their logo, when I was like, I don't know, like 7 or 8, I just remember seeing their logo with the sword and the skull on it. I was like, oh, that's cool. My dad was like, that team sucks. And my uncle was like, yeah, you root for the Redskins. But I just love that. And ever since then, I love the Tampa Bay logo. So
Yeah.
I'm not because of that reason, but I am in Tampa a lot. So it's just like, I don't know, everywhere I go, I love to just pick up a little piece of whatever and see something new and do something new, or go to an outstretch of that. Like, I've been to LA, been to San Francisco, but going to Fresno was like, wow, so that's what the middle bit is like. Like, all right.
I have family on the outskirts of Fresno. Like, they're in like Reedley, Sanger, like, and then I have cousins that like claim Fresno just because people know where that's at.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
And yeah, so now I shout out to Fresno, yay, if you're from there, but not a fan.
I have been kind of dishing out on Fresno a little hard. My bad. And I hope I get invited back.
I mean, it's cool, but at the same time, like, my experience, and this is just me, you can prove me wrong if you're from there, but they're not too friendly out there. Like, everyone, like, has a chip on their shoulder, like, mad about something. Like, I come in peace.
Yeah.
I give you a smile, no smile back? Okay.
There's a lot of, like, the I don't need to talk to you thing in Fresno. When I got there, I landed at the airport, and unbeknownst to me, and it was only funny because me and this person who's now my friend had a shared experience, we got on the same flight together, and we're sitting next to each other on the flight, and it wasn't until later on that we realized that we were there for the same thing, but got to the airport, which is like a strip mall. I'm not dishing on Fresno, but which is like a strip mall. So I got out, got an Uber, and we're going down the street, and make a turn, and make another turn, and then like the street lights begin to get less and less frequent. So I'm like, okay. So then there's like barely any street lights. I mean, turn into this like, it was like an abandoned strip mall / like office building or something. Then there's no street lights. And I'm like, wait a minute, not too many people know where I am. I don't know exactly where I am.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening right now? And I'm like, hey, sir. And he just like gave me this look through the rearview mirror, and I'm like, uh-oh, all right. I didn't bring no knives on the flight because I ain't check any luggage. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna finagle my way out of this. And as I'm formulating some escape plan to beat up this Uber driver who has done nothing wrong, we pull up to this hotel. And I was like, oh, the hotel's in the middle of nowhere. That's all it was. Then the next day, the sun comes up. I see the guy on the flight. We realize we're at the same hotel, and we look around, and it's just that everything shuts down at a certain time. So there is stuff around us. They just didn't have their lights on.
Oh, got it.
So I'm like, all right, this is nowhere near as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
But fucking Fresno, yeah. It is very an interesting place.
It is.
When
Okay.
I just gotta say one more thing though, because we were talking about Florida and
yeah.
the Bay Area and some things that have happened around here. Have you ever seen Fruitvale Station?
Of course I have. Didn't you just see my reaction to Killmonger?
Did you know that was filmed down the street?
Oh, from here? Well,
He left from the South Hayward BART station. That's the station down the
really?
street. So when
it's hard for me to watch, honestly. Like, I'm the biggest empath, so when I know it's gonna end badly, to be honest, when it got to like the bad parts, I have to close my eyes. Like, because I like will internalize it, and since it's based on a true story, if I see it, it's very, very hard for me. Like, my empathic, like, I don't know how to turn it off. So I'll carry it with me for months and months and months. And like, it's a physical heaviness that I carry. So yes, I watched the movie, probably not for the right reasons. But I did know what happened, and I did kind of I wanted to watch it. But when it got towards like that part of it, I have to turn away because of my empathic energy. It'll take it all in, and I'll carry it with me, and it's a hard life. It's rough out here.
The start of that film is the actual footage from that.
Yeah.
And it's very jarring to watch. And when my father had pointed, I was actually across the street when they were filming it. I didn't know what they were doing. And I was like,
saw them?
lights and trailers and stuff? Yeah, and security politely escorted me, like, off of they picked me up and, like, had to put me back on the sidewalk. I was like, Mikey, yo, Jersey, bruh! And, like, they were just like, sir, can you please? But they, like, escorted me out. But that was kind of a reminder to my parents. They're like, yo, you don't forget, you live in a place where this person left from the same station you live across the street from. Like, that could happen to a young person of your color as well. I'm like, all right, but I feel like you guys are taking it a little bit out of control. So I went to where my parents lived, and I used to smoke cigarettes, and I would leave my parents' house and just walk around the block and smoke. And my father was like, don't do that. And I was like, why? I'm not gonna smoke inside the house. Like, the only thing that scares me more than lung cancer is my mother getting upset with me. So I'm just like, I'll just not have that be in her way. And he put me in the car and was like driving me down the street. And we couldn't have been in the car for more than like 3 minutes. And he was like, that right there is where Trayvon Martin got shot. That was the apartment complex. And I was like, are you serious?
God.
Like, this close to you guys in Florida? So he was like, yeah, we had that here. And what happened in the Bay Area happened right across the street from you, or not across the street, because Fruitvale isn't across the street from where I stay at, but like right at Fruitvale Station. It's like in either here or there, something like that has happened to a person that looks just like you. So just don't walk around the neighborhood smoke cigarettes. And I was like, all right, I didn't realize that. And that wasn't a difficult ask, but like it's things like that that you may not be privy to or may not be aware of, like until somebody else points that shit out to you. And it's like it takes jarring examples like that for me to remember this is why I'm not supposed to just walk around outside, smoke cigarettes and stuff. So it can be a very sad thing when you don't remember giant chunks of things, having to remember that stuff.
Yeah.
Like the Tokyo Olympics. I forgot that they delayed the Olympics for a year because of COVID. I was like, word, they really, for a whole year? Like, that's crazy. But like, I just didn't remember that happened.
Well,
So.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't remember that happened until you just said that. So.
Also, in fairness to us, neither of us were in the Olympics, were we?
There you go.
There you have it.
I don't really like watch it either too much. Like, I did when I was little, and there's actual footage of me attempting gymnastics in my American flag bathing suit when I'm 6? No, 4? I don't know. I was little.
Go on.
I was like doing the little motions. Mind you, I was a chunky little girl, so I was in my little somersault. And
you
then
you just did this and this. I'm telling you right now, you did better than the Olympic breakdancer from Australia.
Oh, she got. Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna say anything bad. I was gonna say she got on my nerves, but
This is better than that. That's all I'm saying. And for those of you who are listening to this and not watching it, you don't need to know what I just mimicked. You're all the better for it.
I mean, there is conspiracy theories that she just did that for the publicity or something. I don't know if she was allowed to do that. Well, I figure if you have enough money, you can pay to get anywhere now.
There are conspiracy theories a go-go, but I'm like, but who does that benefit to throw a match like that? My thing is with the people who are heavy-duty breakdancers and stuff, the 4 that I've spoken to personally or had the grace to speak to personally are like, we just want to see how that went before we really threw our hat in the ring. Was it going to be this? Was it going to be that? I'm like, right there is the problem. You waited to see who was going to compete.
Yeah.
If you're the best or you feel like you're the best, you should compete.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't be that thing that you saw. Like, I'm not going to do that bunny motion again, but none of that would have happened if y'all would have been in the ring.
Supposedly it's a kangaroo, because...
Australia. Okay, I'll see you on that.
Just kidding.
All of it was a joke.
Yeah, I know.
But it's things like that. Like, people, if you have the opportunity to do something or show the greatness that you have developed, you should do it.
Absolutely.
Or else more things are going to go the way of the breakdancing in the Olympics. So.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was a joke for... Oh, my gosh. Anyway, we can go on that. I had idea after idea, but that's how my mind works. Okay, so let's go back to the having a purpose, right? Life is going to happen to all of us. Like, I think I spoke about the Saturn return with Jared. When something catastrophic happens, and it's called like your Saturn return. The first time something catastrophic happens is around like 25 to 30 something, early 30s, late 20s, when Saturn returns to its original spot when you were born, and you have like a rebirth. Something so bad happens that it changes you. It's supposed to be like one of the first ones because your brain's fully developed, and I don't know, whatever it is, it's like, okay, now you're gonna be different. And it's gonna happen again, right? Like sometime in our life. So I think not necessarily preparing, because there's nothing can prepare you for what we experience, right? Like something happens and you're like, what the heck? Like, why did that happen to me? And then my brain would go, why did I deserve that? Like, what did I do? Am I a bad person? And, all of these things that, like, are not true. This is all the self-talk. But you can make a decision in that where you're like, okay, this happened to me. Am I going to allow it to encompass everything that now this is my life, this is me, that, like, this is going to be cheesy. But have you seen Wicked?
No, I have not.
Man.
I'm very well aware of it.
But you know the story,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
how she becomes the Wicked Witch,
Yeah.
right? Is she goes through so much trauma and turmoil and bullying that she's like, you know what? Fine, you want to call me that? I'm gonna be that, you know. But it's sad because everyone's against her. Everyone's like, ding dong, the witch is dead, yay!
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine living that life of you're like, that's it. I've had enough. You want to be this? You want to call me this? I'm gonna be this. And it's like, I'm so sad. Like like in the movies, like I mean, they cinematically they make it so you feel for her, you know. But I feel like that's a representation of people who were bullied or something happens and they take the victim route and they're like, this is my life now. They accept the negative part of it instead of fighting through it and being like, no, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show all of you. Like, you know, like, why don't you do that instead of like, all right, fine, I'll be the bad version of myself then, you know, succumbing to the negativity.
And it is make you wonder, like, because people be like, oh, if you're an only child, then this, or if you are the youngest, then you're this, or if the oldest, then you're that. And it's like, people are, I feel like we may disagree on this, but when it comes to the zodiac and things like that, I feel like a person is a sum of their experiences. So to be like, you were born on July 26th, so you don't like the color yellow. It's like, what?
Well, no, yeah.
But I mean, that's an over
Yeah,
exaggeration of what that is. But like, that's why I'm like, I don't know. I've known people. Oh, another thing that I've done, I've only done it twice because somebody that I used to be friends with was very big on the zodiac thing, and I read him this thing from the zodiac calendar. He's like, yeah. Because I'm a Gemini. That's exactly what we feel.
Oh, I don't like that part.
I was like, that was
when you blame
Scorpio,
it on...
bro. Like, that wasn't even your sign. So what are you talking about? Like, just to show him, like, in my opinion, these things are so vague and you can make out of it what you choose, and you can find a parallel to whatever it is going on in your life. So I'm like, that doesn't mean, or, you know, after a while, every fortune cookie is gonna be correct. So
yeah.
To me, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Well, they've kind of oversaturated they've like reading a newspaper and saying, oh, your horoscope for today, Virgo. Like, those I don't like. What my actual birth chart, the time I was born, the location I was born, like, and you want to get into like the specifics of like the transits and where the planets were. It is a science, but it's not going to tell me the little things like, you know, my likes, dislikes, or I'm going to be like this because I'm a Virgo. Like, it just has like the pulls, like overthinking is definitely a Virgo because of where we were placed. Our brain, I don't know. I'm not going to explain. It's too much.
But let me ask you this though. When you say where we were placed, what does that mean?
Like, you were born in a certain city, in a certain part of the world, right? And the planets were at a certain, like, it's like a map.
So like a geographical location.
Yeah, a geographical location, and then the time you emerged, right, or came out, or were cut out, whatever.
I was gonna say that, but I wasn't gonna say it. But all right, yeah, you nailed it. I'm a cut out. So
yeah. Oh, but yeah, it's like the moment you breathe the air, there's a map of that moment that. Well, okay, let's pull it back to the moon, right? So our body is how much water? 70%? Is it 70?
Yeah, it's 70 something, but 78% or something.
78
like that.
something. So the moon has an effect on us because the moon has an effect on water, right? So you know that, or you believe in that part? Okay. The planetary, like each planet signifies something different. So whatever your Venus, where Venus was placed, that microphone's so cool. Sorry, ADD brain. Oops. That's how I love, and it very much. So I'm a Scorpio Venus, which means my love is like so intense, and it even like my family dynamics. Like, it doesn't have to be romantic. Like, I mean, that's true for that too. But like the way I love my dog is like so much. And the way I love my family is like so much. Like, I literally have my sisters and my mom's like names tattooed on my forearm, so they're with me every single day. Like it's like an intense like. We're gonna have like I'm gonna give it like a bad example.
Now, I got a
But
good
it's
story
like-
about tattoos for you in a second, but go on.
It's like the Joe Goldberg obsession of like, this is how much I love you.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
If I was unhealed, okay, but I'm not that okay. I'm not that crazy. I'm not gonna. Although I did say on an Instagram post yesterday, there's this dumb girl that's like, if somebody tried to hurt your dog and you were to shoot them, that means that you value an animal's life over a human life. And I, like, someone else, like, stitched it. It was like 100%, absolutely. Like, yeah. And I put, hell yeah, I'd go Joe Goldberg on that person. Like, immediate switch. Like, you want to hurt my dog? Okay, let me. Anyway, intense.
The thing with getting your family members tattooed on you, I have my mother's name tattooed on me right here. And my mother hates it anytime I get a tattoo. I'm covered in them. So I was like, hey, I got another. Oh, and she hates hand tattoos the most. Oh, you're never gonna get a job. And I was like, I run 2 companies, But I got one, and it was of her name. And I've never seen a person malfunction in this way, because she was like, another one, and on your hand of me. That's thoughtful, but on your hand, but it's for me, but on hand, but thoughtful, hand, and like, you can see, and me and my dad looked at each other, was like, yo, she ain't gonna be all right, is she? And she's like freaked out for a second, and then like got it together, and we've never spoken about it again. And it's like, yeah, that's a little hard for you to deal with, isn't it? Like, So, when it comes to recognizing and doing something that is a memento to the people that have helped shape your life, that are on you, like that's really cool. Actually, some of the people that I have tattooed on me, not like it's a whole not that it's a whole collective, but either they don't have that of me, or they don't have tattoos at all. And I'm like, word, like, all right, see how long it takes for this to fade off. But there's different mementos, different things that people can do to signify the value that other people bring to them. Same way that you can signify the value of a different place, or of a place, or an experience, or what have you.
Like your things that you collect.
That's exactly it. So like that's why I like collecting those things. There'd even been like notes and things written to me that, because of what I went through in 2023, I'm like, this person wrote something. There's 2 in particular. One, like, this is really sweet and really like momentous and shows a lot of caring. And there's literally a note from someone who is quite famous, who wrote me, I'm sorry that I took all your things when I left your apartment. They robbed me when I wasn't around, and like I'd left town to do work. They robbed my old apartment and just
Oh my God.
later on gave me an I'm sorry note. We'll do it off air. I'll tell you who this person is. You'll be like, what the? But yeah, I'm like, so I have that note, which still like makes me upset, because I don't know what was happening at that point in time that they would do something like that. Like, but at the same time, it's like that also in its negativity is still very important to me, because it's like that's something that I gotta watch out for. It doesn't matter how much money somebody has or how well off somebody is or whatever. Like, so I'll watch out for certain people. Yeah, there's a lesson to be learned from all of those things.
What in the world?
Even on that wall, you can see too, because it's kind of chronological, nightclub bracelets and all this kind of stuff, and hotel room keys and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like conventions, and like you can see my evolution in terms of just age and the events and things that I go to. It's not like club VIP bracelets and stuff anymore. It's like VIP backstage passes to E3 or something like that, where it's like, you get to see new and emerging technology and things like that, as opposed to, just twerking. I mean, I enjoy both, but I don't need to pay to see one, so I'd rather pay to see the technology of the future than to see twerking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to watch your own evolution. I recently started posting these interviews on YouTube, and 5 or 6 years ago, I used to just talk to the camera and lessons that I've been through or whatever, and I would post it on YouTube. And I posted my first episode on camera of BU interviews, inspirational interviews, and I went back and I watched all of my old videos, and I was like, was aggressive a little bit. Like my delivery and the way that I spoke was very passionate. Well, I mean, I'm not saying these things are bad, but I feel like back then I felt like I had a lot to prove, the energy. And now I don't, like, I'm so detached from the outcome. Although, I mean, I would absolutely love for everything to like blow up and the people that hear me, but I have a solidified belief of like who needs to hear this will hear it.
Okay,
And
understood.
those that are watching for other reasons or are coming from a negative space, like I'm sure they'll hear it too, but I don't care about those people.
How do you, I mean, I guess, how do you turn that off? How do you choose to, and this is a personal question, like, how do you choose to
Detachment?
ignore, yeah, have that detachment to negativity in that way?
I think my purpose just got stronger. Like I just realized this is what I want to do. And regardless, the negative is going to come with it. So it's either I don't do it or I keep fighting, like wasting my energy on people who are like saying things or think things like those are not my people. So they can fall away. Like you give attention and strength and energy to things that you want to grow and evolve and like, you know, you want to give your attention to things that you want in your life, right? So I like to envision it as of someone tiny, like throwing pebbles, like at my window. And if I go over there and I'm like, hey, you stop, they get like, ooh, I got a reaction. I'm going to throw more. I'm going to throw bigger ones. Like, you know, like this is just my visualization of it. But if a little thing is like throwing pebbles at my window and I never come to the window, they're like, they're exerting all the energy. I'm not. I'm in my house. I'm doing whatever I want to be doing. And they're like, they're going to get tired after a while. They're like, oh, all right. And then they're going to go away.
Unfortunately, the internet is not one person though. Like that, it can be quite grating. On the Stark Contrast blog, it started off with just me, and I think it was Pharrell's blog, like back in it's like 16 years ago, and he didn't just post up stuff because most blogs were like, oh my god, today me and Stephanie went to, and then we saw Britney, and it's like it's not just about. I didn't want it to be just about my experiences. Pharrell's was about everything he saw that was cool, not just the stuff that he produced. It would be the things that inspired him and things like that. And I'm like, I would like to do something like that where it's just things that I find cool. After a while of doing that, you know, you get into a rhythm of it. Wake up in the morning, write a couple of things that you just see on the internet, and then, you know, kind of summarize those things. Realize that not everybody wants to read a whole lot. And so more pictures, more photographs or videos than words. Then I had an assistant who I asked, 'cause she worked at not a coffee shop, she worked at Pete's Coffee, but she was a manager over there. She used to have to get up super early in the morning. And there's nothing to do when you're like, you know, before you have to wait for the bus to get all the way down there to open the shop or stuff. So she would help me out in the mornings with blog posts. Now it became the two of us as a team. And she would write about things that I wouldn't necessarily find interesting, but it broadened it from just being me. So now it's like, all right, she thinks that these Balenciaga boots are cool. I can't even spell Balenciaga, nor afford it, nor would want to pay for it for somebody else. But it's like, all right, that's an interesting thing to bring into it. Then she'd fallen away. Then I found somebody else to help me. Then another person, was the three of us. And then I found this weird unity of like, if I don't agree with something, that's my personal preference. But it can be 2-to-1. That'll be like, we should talk about this, or we should write up a post about this. All right, cool, so let's do it. So after that, only operate in odd numbers, not even numbers. So there can never be a 50-50 vote on something.
Okay.
Like, as we were talking about before the podcast started, Kanye West.
Oh, yeah.
I was of the opinion that we should just leave the whole thing alone and not draw more attention to a person who seems a bit unhinged, or try to bring more light to this. Plus, everybody else is going to be talking about it, whatever. And somebody who you know that actually works with me on the blog, he was like, I don't know if we can ignore this bit of it. And so everybody got together, sat down and had a vote. And regardless of my opinions, it was like, this Kanye West thing is something that we should talk about. And in doing that research, I was like, you know, that thing with him dressed up in that suit and all that stuff, if you watch that interview, it is for a reason. And he's not as loco as people would think that he is. And it became very like more fascinating. And by the time I had decided I want to write an article about this, it was already written. So it's like it is nice to have a team of people who help you decide how, or help you to achieve these goals, or like, you know, you might want to think about something like this. You might want to do something like that. And I'm not in a position where, like, you know, I'm not done putting together that puzzle of static and stuff. So I'm like, maybe I am missing something. Maybe there is a piece of information that I had that I forgot that I can be reminded of, or, you know, or maybe I can show somebody this and that'll be a way for me to remember it better, something like that. And that has, like, the Stark Contrast blog has been a very big source of, like, function, something to do in the morning. Like, obviously I don't really hit the gym super often, but I'll get up every morning and religiously go at least look up articles or see some of the things that people have sent me. Is this worth a look in on, this and that? Or is it something that I really want to write about, but there's not enough information for it? Like, there are statues and structures, I believe it's in Scotland, that they blow in the wind. They look like trees, and they blow in the wind, and they're quite beautiful, and they produce electricity.
Wow, like windmills?
Kind of like windmills, but they're shaped like trees.
But
Like it's like a giant
cooler.
metal tree, yeah, and
Yeah.
everything spins on it with the wind,
Yeah.
and creates electricity. That's all the information I have on it. I can't write, like, who developed this, where in Scotland is it, like how long have they been up, blah, blah, blah. Can I get more than just those 4 photos of it, something like that. So there are a lot of things that I would like to write about, or would like to have the staff write about, but we can't because there's not that much information. Also, with the evolution of Instagram, everything, and Instagram and TikTok as well, because I'm not on TikTok. Fucking just give it up to whoever's upstairs. I don't have to have a TikTok. But where you see this stuff and it's so rapid fire, and you can just scroll through your own TikTok and be the curator of the things that you want to see, and it makes our site more or less and less relevant, which means we have to do more and more stuff to stay pertinent in somebody's, like, oh, let me see if that site has this. So let me see if the Stark Contrast blog wrote about this. Let me see what they have to say about the movie Sinners, or this and that, or what have you. So they're like, even I think it's on Wednesday, I gotta go see the Thunderbolts movie. And that's to get there and write a review on that. Even to write a review or try to influence somebody that, yeah, this is a movie worth seeing if you like this. Maybe you don't like the Marvel stuff, but this is still a movie that's good for this and that reason. When I'm done with that, it just goes into the sea of all these other critics who have written reviews on the same thing. So even the hardest shot that we take is just a shot that sometimes might not make it in. So there's a lot of, like, humbling yourself and getting together with a team. It's like, even though you put your fastest foot forward, still might not get to the finish line at all, if not like before somebody else. Every year we always sit together and come up with, or we see, you can see it because it's all written out, what the biggest post for the year is. You know how everybody can have their picture in AI, I think it was 2 years ago, the Super Bowl 2 years ago, there's a post that we wrote about the dangers of AI. And it was Taylor Swift, nude, right? But it wasn't, though. It was all AI generated. But that's not at a point in time where people could discern what was real from what wasn't. And I'm like, because there's like 10 photos. I'm like, if you look at the stands, everybody's wearing white and red. There's no football game where everybody's all cheering for the same team. It's just not possible. There's nobody going up and down the stands. Everybody's seated or cheering at a field you can't see. There's other inconsistencies with different photos. Like, one of them was her with body paint on. And there's a bunch of football players. She's in, like, the middle of a bunch of football players naked. And I'm like, nobody's got a cell phone camera though? Like, word?
Right.
All right. So little things that I'm like, you have to look out for these things that can deceive you into thinking that an image that you see that can be reported as news can be fake. Fast forward to a simple 2 years later, and people, like, it's the thing now. Oh, look at me, I'm AI hanging out, or like hanging out on the moon or whatever. And it's like, it hasn't become a danger so much as a nuisance in the way of what I think is getting a good photographer, seeking out somebody like, shout out to Dave Todd, a great photographer who can take those photos or create those images or things like that for you. Now you can just type in Whitney Houston AI and get a picture just like that. So it's also the reason I keep bringing up Whitney Houston is not just because she's behind me. It's because Gary Houston is a very close friend of mine, so her nephew. He's an amazing artist. But yeah, like, people can just do these things now without having to put in the time and effort to it, and it's like.
But what does that have to do with discernment?
Discernment.
I mean, not discernment. I'm sorry. Detachment.
Oh, detachment is I become.
Like, how do you What was I said that What did
Also,
I even say?
being detached from reality in the sense of AI or certain things will
no, no, no,
detach
no,
you
no, no.
from.
I was talking about the negativity
Oh,
and
negative.
and detaching from negativity. And
When
then we went off on an AI tangent.
that's a very good question. When it comes to negativity, just in general, there's a lot of that's what it
Oh,
was.
like
Is
how
that
does it
I
not
don't
affect me?
the yeah, that's why I asked you because we have a thing on our blog where once the comment section gets too lit, we'll just erase it, but we can't erase it for that post. The whole comment section on every post for the last 14 years is gone. So it'll look if you look on the site, it'll be like 700,000 likes on something, 0 comments. It's like that math doesn't add up.
Oh.
It's because somebody will go start talking about something, especially reviews on things. Oh, you're an idiot because this and that, blah blah blah. And it's like I don't want to surround myself or the people that work with me with that type of
That's fair.
negativity. So it's like, why should we be subjected to that? And there are people on the staff. I can't really single them out, but like one person in particular who gets very affected by things like that. And I'm like, I don't want something that some idiot wrote on the internet to affect the whole mood of a person that works for me. So it's like, let's just get rid of the comment section. Let's not have this. Let's not have other people's input on it. Like, this is what we're showing you. You can like it or not. You telling us you not liking it is just not going to the site. So that's how I would like to have
Yeah,
things. But
I mean, I agree with that too because I did have someone who was unhinged that was obsessed. Before I used to do modeling music videos, whatever, and he would send me like DMs. This is back when I used to get DMs. I like to think that I'm untouchable now, so everybody like won't DM me. I was just talking to someone about this where I'm like, I changed my energy so they're too intimidated too because I'm like, no, in my energy. And I was like, and it worked for so kind of. Oh, I did make my Instagram private though too, but anyway.
that'll do it.
Yeah, but what was my point to this? Hold on, what was I talking about?
With energies.
Energies and
Like blocking things.
yes, yeah. Oh, so this guy would send me like, you're the best thing in the world, blah 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 blah, whatever. And this was back when I used to get a lot of DMs, and I used to encourage people to ask me questions or whatever. Not in that regard, but like, do you have a question? I'll bring it up on YouTube or whatever. And I stopped responding because I didn't have time to entertain someone who's sending me obsessive, like, you're so great, I love you, blah, blah, blah. I would heart it. Just, sure, thanks, sir. Keep moving, whatever. Now I know better than to do that. Like, immediately block and delete. If someone's obsessive like that and you don't know them, it's probably a red flag, right? I didn't know that back then. I was just like, oh, let me just give thanks to my fans and whatever. The minute I stopped responding, even like I just wouldn't have time for it. I'd read the other things, and it changed to like calling me every name in the book. You're a whore, blah 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 blah, da, 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 like constantly, and like, okay, block and delete, obviously, but then he would start and going into my comments. And obviously that I don't want that on my page. I don't want those words on my page. I don't want anyone crazy on my page. So I definitely would delete. Or someone also said, because I used to do kickboxing, and this guy like tried to educate me in front of everyone, put a comment like, oh, something technical, right, that I wasn't doing. And I'm just like, I don't know if I sent him a private message of like, hey,
Can you
don't
not?
do that.
Yeah.
Like, not only is that rude, it's disrespectful. It's like, he's like, well, if you want to put your stuff out there, then you're asking for people to comment on it. I'm like, I'm not though. Actually, like, no, And so I had to block and delete him. So I do, and I will if someone else puts something weird. It just shows me that you're a weird, negative person and you're miserable in your own life. So you have to like get on the internet and be like, I'm mad.
It's
And
called
you're
Twitter fingers
triggering me.
for a
Yeah.
reason. Like, people will say things over the internet because there's that anonymity that they will never say to you in
But
real
that's
life.
such a cowardly, like, so in that aspect, I do agree where if it's like something like that, where it's like, okay, block and delete, bye. Like, but I'm referring to, so there was like one of my coworkers when I used to work, I don't know, remember where, had brought, and I only remember this, I totally forgot that this happened, but like I used to do dance videos, like I used to do dance and everything, and those were like my biggest things, like everyone's like, oh my God, dance video, wee. And someone was angry that I was getting so much recognition from my dance videos. Or like, she can't even dance. Like, what's so special about her? Blah, blah, blah. And that to me, tells me I'm insecure. She's triggering me. Why her and not me? I'm mad. Blah, blah, blah. You know, that just tells me that. So it doesn't really affect me. And then, but in those aspects where they're like, you're an idiot for thinking this and that or whatever, you're just triggering them because they think differently than you. Like the whole sitting down and eating with different religions,
Yeah.
right? Like someone's like, you're wrong because you don't eat pork.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what? Are you okay? Like, go away.
Yeah,
Like, you have to just kind of.
It is a very like sectional. Like if that's everybody's normal, then that's your normal. So like you don't think that that kind of stuff is weird. And when negativity becomes that normal, it's like yeah, but it's difficult to show everybody that you don't have to be negative towards people all the time. Like
For some people, I mean, I just think because did I mention I watch a lot of podcasts? There are some things that like my favorite people will say that I'm like, oh, I don't agree with that, but I don't make it a point to let them know. You know, I'm like, oh, probably that part isn't for me, and then I'll wait, and then they'll talk about something that is for me, and it's not that hard. Like, there's a lot of things that people don't agree with that I believe in, and they don't have to. Like, and that's okay. Like, I'm not angry. You should all listen to me. Like, no, listen to your people. Like, and I encourage that whoever you resonate with, I feel like that's who you should listen to and that's who you should watch, you know? And I'm just putting the intention out there that I hope the people that resonate with us in this conversation or with me in this show, they watch it because they get inspired and they're like, heck yeah, I feel this. I like it, you know?
what is it? There's like when it comes to synonyms, that's for a word. You can say the same word with a different word, but it's like when it comes to the notion of don't let things hold you back. You can do it and you can go get it and you can accomplish your goals. Like it all sounds so hokey because it's been said so many times. Like if anybody were to take anything from the stuff that I've said, be it an addict who's trying to quit whatever their vice is, or somebody trying to start a small business, or somebody trying to do something, like, yeah, you can do it, you can get it, champ. Like that kind of doesn't hit the spot, but at the same time, you can do it. You can go get it. Like it's not.
Champ. Just kidding.
It's not as I can't say it's not as hard as you'd think, because it is hard. Not everything is easy or what have you. But if
100%.
you want it bad enough, you can go get it. I have these two friends in particular who are actually related to each other. I have some ugly friends with some really hot girlfriends, and it's like, dude, they just, like, not in a harassing kind of way, but it's like, they went through, like, these spectacular grand gestures to get somebody's attention. Just be like, I just didn't know how to say hi to you, so I did this. And the person be like, nobody's ever done that for me before. And I'm just like, yeah, that's a person being like, I just want to let you know that I would like to be a part of your life. And whatever chance I have of doing that, I feel like it'd be greater if I did this. So, I mean, like, I've had people that I've been friends with for years and years and years, and just after a conversation, things will change, or things will evolve into something different. And it's like, nothing is impossible. You can just go do the shit, like, for lack of a better term, so.
Yeah, but that's also why I have such a wide variety of people who have been through different things and have accomplished different things, because different people resonate with different people, you know? Because I've watched a crazy amount of podcasts. And there will be a multitude of the same subject, right? But there's only a few that say it in a way that I can hear it and understand, right? So I subscribe to only those people. There are a whole bunch of people that do the same thing and say the same thing, but there are only a very few that I resonate and I really like. So that's what I want to do for everybody out there. Like, if they're going through something or they feel something and they hear you talk, like maybe they've watched all my other podcasts and they're like, oh, that's cool, but good for them. And then you speak and they're like, oh my God, like he gets me. Like that he's saying something that I feel, or he's saying something that yes, like, you know what I mean? Like you might be the person to help somebody out there because they can hear what you're saying in a way that you say it. Hopefully, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay.
I very much hope that whoever needs to hear it, I don't take whatever you can from it, but just whoever needs to hear that, they get it in whatever form that takes. So.
Yeah.
I've definitely had nights doing stand up where, because I tell stories, not
Yeah, you do
observational.
everything.
It's a hobby. It's definitely a hobby. That's not like I'll go to the function and shout out to Stroy and all that stuff, but I'll go to the function and just like say whatever has happened and so on and so forth. I actually was telling somebody something about this trip that I took most recently. And it was part of the stand-up that I was gonna do, but they just kept cracking up every couple of sentences, and I was like, all right, this will work. Like, all right, cool. But I'll just go up there and like tell a story, and then people will be like, I thought public speaking was like the number 2 fear next to death in people. And I'm like,
Wow.
First time I ever did stand-up was at my best friend's funeral. And that's
did
true.
Stand up at a
I did a
funeral?
prepared set of stuff, like a prepared speech that was meant to bring levity to the situation. And my friend had passed away from cancer, and I went up there and just talked about experiences of us growing up, and a lot of the church was laughing, and his parents thanked me afterwards, and my aunt was like, that was a really good job, and his sister was like, I want to say that you did a good job, but like, I couldn't even look at you when you were up there. I'm like, yeah, that's a bond that like, you know what I mean? That's her big brother and somebody that I grew up with. Like, so it's like, that's difficult for me to like, for us to look at each other. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, let me just focus on everything else. Like the pain of me making eye contact with her was worse than this thing that people are so afraid to do. So when I go around now, go to the function, be like, oh, when's the first time you did it? That's always a good comics, like, comics like good stories, like when's the first time you did it? And when I'm like, oh, I was at a funeral, they're like, you're kidding. I'm like, no. I wish he was still alive so that would never have happened, but no, it was at a funeral. And it hasn't always gone well, but it's been something that I find brings, a bit of relief to a situation, or being able to talk to people. But one of the things that I don't do is tell people where and when I'm gonna do it. Because if you come into the function and you're like in the back by the bar and I see you, then now the whole thing becomes me talking to you. And it's the audience is now observing a one-sided conversation between me to you, because I'm looking at you to see if you laughed at this or laughed at that, as opposed to if I'm looking around and talking to everybody else who's doing this and engaging with the room. So I don't tell a lot of my friends where I'm gonna do it, but they've all heard the stuff that I'm gonna say as it is. So it's like, it's a bit of balance with that, but I don't know. However somebody chooses to get their positivity in their life, I feel like that they should pursue it, so.
Agree. Do you have anything else you want to share, or any advice you want to give to maybe someone who has a condition that they think is going to hinder them from living their life? Like when I tell you this is Tony Stark's actual house, he's the real Tony Stark. Like he's not the Marvel.
You're gonna make me blush.
Seriously, like he has. I can't even speak.
Don't get me robbed.
Oh yeah, well they don't know where we're at.
But I guess if anything, to somebody who has a affliction or an ailment, illness, condition, what have you, you have that condition. Think about that for a second. You have that condition. The condition doesn't come first, you do. So you shouldn't really think about it as, oh, epilepsy has ruined me, or, I was gonna say polio for some reason. I don't know if we have polio anymore, but like things like that. It's like, no, but you were the person with that. You were the person. That is the beginning of every time that you tell that sentence. So you, as the person, can decide what you can and can't make out of that situation. So just do your best to remind yourself of that every chance that you get. So.
Yeah, and also think of it. I know that right now you think of it as like a disadvantage, But what if you flipped it to your advantage? Like he just said, only you, like this is your situation. It's unique to you. Not to bring up Kanye again, but not to be controversial, but I like Kanye, okay? And in one of his songs, he says, see, that's my, shoot, I forget what he has, but he's like, that's my, not bipolar. Shoot, whatever he has, he says it in the end of his song. He's like, that's not a, that's my superpower. And he goes, ah!
I think he did. I think he does have bipolar. So it may have
That's
been bipolar. But I mean, I don't.
forget what he
I don't know
calls.
the
He
specific
shouts it out,
lyrics,
but it's
yeah.
in one of his songs, and I absolutely love that. And one of my friends at the gym, she says, "Oh, that's my trauma that I'm working. That's my whatever," and I'm like, "No, that's your superpower. That's what makes you you. Like, use that as fuel. Let's go." And like, I might sound crazy to people, but like Kanye does, but like, isn't it better to think that way? Like,
there's always a benefit to whatever the coin is. There's always an opposite side to it. The thing that I love the most is if somebody will say something or do something that'll get me upset. There's like a 50, there's probably like a 40% chance that this will happen. But I could turn around and just, all right, well, let me check this. Wait, what was I supposed to be mad at again? Forgot. Let me get back to this thing that's in front of me right now and focus on that. And like, Jared will do it too. He'll be like, wait, you don't? And I'll be like, no. He's like, all right, I'm just not gonna say anything. You were hella mad like 4 minutes ago. And I'm like, whatever. And just keep it pushing. So it's like, there's so much like less stress because of that affliction that people are like, but you got goldfish memory. And it's like, yeah, goldfish forget the bad things too. So it's, look at the positive side of things.
yeah, I like that. All right. Do you have anything else?
That's it.
You know how we end the show?
Nope.
Yes, you do.
I'm saying nope so you can tell me again. So then, come on.
So I tell everybody to be who, and then you say,
Yourself.
yeah, pretty much. When you say be you.
Be you.
Yeah, you say the slogan. So thank you for tuning in yet again, whether it's just audio on Spotify, YouTube, wherever this is. Remember to be nobody else but you. So be who?
Be you.
Woo! Bye, everybody. See you next week.
And we're out.